What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Dissect That Film Slice of TV. I am Brett Parker, and where is everybody else? Well, today I'm going solo as I talk about a show that just came out yesterday, as of this recording, the new Moon Knight from Marvel Studios. Now, I don't know much about Moon Knight from the comics, but the only thing that I've really heard about Moon Knight was that he is like Batman. He's the Marvel version of Batman, which is interesting. So, of course, that's going to intrigue me as I'm a huge Batman fan. So, what is this character really about, and what does this show bring to the table? Well, it brought a lot, some good and some bad. The cast is fantastic. Oscar Isaac, of course, I mean, I don't know if I've seen really anything with him that's been bad, at least recently. This also has Ethan Hawke playing the villain of the show, which is just insane. Ethan Hawke is awesome. The cast, the story, the intrigue of not showing you everything all at once, that is what draws me in. I don't want to see the main character kind of right off the bat. I like this build up to what we eventually get at the end of this show. Now, just to warn you, I will be trying to do some non-spoilers, but I will be going into full spoilers. So if you haven't seen episode 1 of Moon Knight, please go watch it and then come back and watch this review. This is something new for me. I haven't really done a show by myself, so also let me know how I do. All right. So this all is it's about a character who really he has a condition. I believe it's called dissociative disorder, where he has multiple personalities. I don't know if it's really both. It's identities. He has multiple identities. But he doesn't know that he does. At least you think like the version of him you see in the beginning of the show is that the main one, or is there a main one? Is it just kind of branching off? And clearly this guy doesn't have any control of it. The opening of this show is just eerie. You get to see Ethan Hawke's character for the first time, and what he does is just kind of like, oh, this is going to be crazy. And then it just kind of branches off from there. It's this character who is kind of, I wouldn't say down on his luck, but he's kind of like the butt of the joke, which is kind of weird when it's Oscar Isaac. This man he's a very gorgeous man. And he's kind of the butt of the joke. And he, kind of gets treated like shit at work. He gets treated, he's kind of treated as like a nobody. But there's weird things going on in his life that is kind of like, what's going on? Why can't I remember anything? And why the hell am I chained to this bed? It's well acted, of course, as I said earlier, because of the people that are in the show. They brought in some very good actors. Of course, it's Marvel Studios. I feel, they're going to bring the best in to do these projects. I think that the biggest downfall, at least of this first episode, which I hope, maybe it gets better as we go on, but I don't know, is the CGI. The CGI is not good in this episode. I remember the scene where it kind of takes you out, but the acting and the situation kind of keep you in, so you're not completely thrown off guard where you're like, holy shit, that's really bad. But and I don't know if I can continue watching, but in reality, you're like, you know what? This is all keeping me in because of Oscar Isaac's awesome acting, and the whole situation that's going on around him is very interesting, and it keeps you from always going, oh, that doesn't look very good visually. I hope it improves, but it also shows like Marvel. This is a Marvel TV show, but it's also like you're trying to feel like you're in the cinematic universe. This is all part of that cinematic universe. So to kind of have special effects that are kind of a downgrade from, from since 2008 or 9 when Iron Man came out, the visual effects have been so on par. And then to kind of get, what we get here, it's kind of jarring and kind of eerie, but I'm still invested. I'm very excited to see where this show keeps going. All right. I figured that's enough non-spoilers. It's a great show. Make sure to go check it out if you haven't. because I'm going to be jumping into spoilers. So again, I will warn you, if you have not seen episode 1 of Moon Knight, go watch it, come back, and watch this review. I appreciate everybody who comes by and watches all of our reviews. All right, here we go. So the show opens up to a gentleman who is, you don't really know exactly who he is, but he breaks like a glass and then pours it in his shoes and puts them on and walks out. That is the opening of this show, and it's just like, all right, that's what we're doing right now. I guess yeah, all right. And it's Ethan Hawke's character because you get to see him visually. And then it cuts to our main character, Stephen Grant, who is played by Oscar Isaac, and he is like strapped to his bed. He's got an ankle restraint. He's got sand around his bed. You're kind of wondering what the hell is going on here. And he kind of wakes up in the same vein where he's kind of like, what the hell is going on? He has like a routine that he does because he knows something's going on, but he just doesn't know exactly what's going on. He's got tape on his door. He's got, the restraint. He's got the sand. He's got all these different things. He's got his fish, who's his best friend, which is always hilarious. And he has a very interesting British accent, which I guess some people were very confused. They were either like, oh crap, is Oscar Isaac English and we just didn't know? Or is this just, or, people like me knew that he wasn't. It was kind of weird. It was kind of like off-putting. I'm not British or English or, I'm not from that area. So I guess it's more of the fact of like, for all of my friends over in the UK, what did you think of this accent? Was it good? Was it bad? It's definitely intriguing to hear, people who, have the accent, which in your country is not an accent. It's just the way you speak. But tell me what you think of it, because it was interesting for me being American, being like, ooh, it's sometimes it sounds really good. And sometimes it's kind of like, if you're just messing around and you just whip out that really bad British accent. But I digress. So he's just a down. I don't know if he's really, like I said before, he's not really down on his luck, but he's kind of the butt of the joke. He goes to work. He works at a museum, which is really cool. I would love to work at a museum like this because I love being surrounded by just history. And he's surrounded by just people who treat him like shit. And he's got a crappy boss. He's got, there's just people that work at this place who just don't give a crap. There's all sorts of unique people. He's got a girl, there was a woman who works there who I guess he asked out on a date, but he doesn't realize it because, again, he has this dissociative identity disorder where one of the other identities asks this girl out on a date and then he doesn't remember. And then, everything happens where eventually he doesn't make the date. But yeah, he gets treated like crap by his boss. He works in the gift shop. So he's kind of, I like the fact that he goes into the museum and he's sees this little girl stick, I think it was a Lego inside of a replica of or a miniature of one of the pyramids of Giza. And, he's telling her the history of, how they embalmed mummies, back in those times and all that. And then his boss yells at him for not being a tour guide, which would have, of course, it's like, this guy knows a lot about the history, but yeah, he's working in the gift shop. We've seen kind of this story before, but I like this little twist. I love Egyptian history. I love the ancient Egypt. I love ancient Egypt. I loved learning about it in school. So getting to see it in this way is kind of interesting. Getting to hear about different gods, Egyptian gods that we didn't really, they don't touch on in like when the mummy was a thing, we weren't hearing about these gods where we got something a little bit different here in Moon Knight. The performance of Oscar Isaac again is just great. The way that he is kind of figuring everything out because things keep happening. Like he literally like leaves work and goes home and then, he prepares himself to go to bed and he wakes up and he's in a different country. and it's like bright and sunny and everything is going on, and you're like, what the hell is going, what is happening? And he doesn't know. And then you hear the voice in his head that is kind of just like, and he keeps calling him the idiot, which I was like, that's not very nice. But is voiced by F. Murray Abraham, who is a legendary actor from, all the way back to, 60s, 70s, 80s. He's been doing it for a long, long time. And he's that voice in his head that is pretty much like, you need to give up control. You need to give it to Mark. And Mark, you find out, is the Moon Knight part of Steven. When he is Mark, he is able to then transform as Moon Knight and do his thing. The great thing about this episode was that you don't see Moon Knight. You don't see him transform. Every time there is a bit where Steven is turning into Mark, it's kind of just a phase out. It vibrates a little bit where he like passes out and then he wakes up and he's back to being Steven again. But then everything that Mark did is surrounding him. Like, people are dead. Like, he goes into a town square wherever he's at. I don't remember. It doesn't really. I don't think it ever tells you exactly where he is at that moment when he's in this village. But he's running away from people because clearly he did something bad, because he wasn't Steven, he was Mark. And he goes into the square and he's trying to like, what is going on? He's hiding in this crowd, and that's when Ethan Hawke shows up, and he is like this man who he has the powers of this god where he can judge you based on, your entire life, either things you've already done or things that you're going to do. And I kind of like the whole thing. He's got this like staff that has, so the god, I can't remember what the god's name is. Oh, it's the moon god. Oh, never mind. That's what Mark turns into. So yeah, he has like this power of the goddess Amit or Amit. She looks like a crocodile. She pretty much is I guess the god of chaos in Egyptian mythology, or she's more of like she forces judgment on people. And that's what Arthur, who is Ethan Hawke's character, he pretty much comes down and asks people if they want to be judged. And the crazy thing is he comes to this village and he judges one person. And it's this staff that has two crocodile heads on it and a staff, and he places it on their wrists. And then he has a tattoo that it's literally a scale, and it goes up and down. And then if you're good, if it highlights green, if it's bad, it highlights red. That part was a little bit cheesy. I feel there should have been something different instead of it just being a color code of green or red being good or bad, but I'm kind of going to ignore it. It's not that bad, but it was kind of like, really, we couldn't have come up with a little bit different, like, it just kind of, the tattoo design could have been just a little bit different. The way that it judges people could have been a little bit different. I feel that was something that they could have looked more into, but instead we had the basic, you're good, you're green, you're bad, you're red. I digress. So yeah, so he judges one person, turns out to be green, it's good. And then a woman comes up and he does the same thing and it turns out to be red. And she, pleads to him, I've been good all my life. And he said, well, it could be something you did in something that you will do in the future, which is crazy. So, and then he like sucks the life out of her, and you're like, what the hell is going on? Right in the middle of this square where there's people all around. And that's when he's notified about this mercenary. You don't hear his name, but you hear about the mercenary. And then he says a command, everybody goes down, and Steven doesn't. He kind of just is like, oh shit, and kneels down. He then asks for a scarab, which is the beetle. If you've ever watched the Mummy movies, it's like the beetle that literally crawls inside people and eats them. But it's very big in Egyptian mythology. These scarabs, were all over, in stories, and the way that, there's some stories of how, certain things were done back in the day, and how scarabs would, eat the flesh. It was weird. It's the way that movies and stories from, not those times would tell you about scarabs. But he has like a golden scarab and he asks for it back. And he tries to, as Steven, he tries to give it back, but he can't. Which is unfortunate. And he closes his hand. He's trying to avoid him. He's doing different things. And and, and that's when we start getting the phases where, he's surrounded by a bunch of people who's trying to run away and he like phases out and then he phases back in. He's got a gun in his hand and there's freaking dead bodies everywhere and he's trying to run away from everybody. And that's what's, I think, interesting about this episode is you're never seeing the Mark character. You're never seeing Moon Knight. You're never seeing the other side. You're always seeing Steven and you're only seeing the aftermath of what Mark does. And I like that a lot. You don't get the reveal of Moon Knight until the final shot. It's literally, when you get in it, and that's what's great. Sometimes people get disappointed when they don't get to see the main, like the point of the show. It's called Moon Knight. We want to see Moon Knight. Why aren't we seeing Moon Knight? This is a great buildup to what we're going to see for the next 5 episodes, and I'm very excited about that. I thought it was a very good choice by the writers to do it this way. Especially since I love the Stephen Grant character. I think Oscar Isaac being able to play between these two characters. We didn't get to see Mark very much. We only got to see him at the end, which is, it's Oscar Isaac's, true self, where this Stephen Grant is kind of a character that he creates. It's very interesting. I'm very excited. But this is where it starts getting really shoddy. So he escapes this village in a cupcake truck, and this is some of the worst CG I've probably seen in Marvel, or anything that's this high budgeted in a long time. It's just not good. The cars look terrible. There's very poorly done textures on trees and cars, and it's just bad. But the thing that keeps me into the scenes with this bad CGI is the way that Steven is reacting to everything going on around him, because he's 2 or 3 times while he's driving this truck, he phases out and phases back to being Steven again. And he's, things are happening. He's got a gun in his hand. There's a dead dude in the back of the truck. Things are going on, and then it's all crazy. But the CG's bad. I really hope it improves over the next 5 episodes, or we just get a lot of shots in the dark, which is great. When you have CG that's kind of shoddy, and a show that's kind of, from what people say, Moon Knight is kind of the Batman of Marvel. A lot of things. I'd like to see more of stuff in the dark. I think it would work out better. We get a scene later on when he's in the museum late at night, and he's avoiding these. They're like dogs that Arthur sets on him, and they look good because they're very. I like the visuals of the face. I like the peering eyes, but also it's in the dark. So even if it wasn't very good CG, you're not seeing it because it's very well lit, and you're getting the eeriness of those dogs. Another thing I thought was pretty good was the shot that we saw in the trailer of the god Khonshu. I think it was the moon god Khonshu, which is the big towering creature with like the big long beak that kind of walks down the hallway as Steven is trying to figure everything out. He finds a phone, he finds a key, he's trying to call the woman that's on the phone, and he tries to escape, and he keeps trying to get to the ground floor, and he can't. He keeps going, skipping floors, and then he runs into this menacing creature. And I thought it was a really good shot where it comes at him down the hallway, and it comes into the elevator, but then it turns into an old woman. But then you get to see him in the daylight, and I was like, I don't like that. I don't like these creatures that are supposed to be dark and menacing. They don't look as menacing in the daylight. So Moon Knight, let's have more stuff in the dark, even though it's kind of weird to say because sometimes things in the dark never, like, it just, sometimes it can be good, sometimes it can be bad, but this show just seems like it makes more sense in the darkness, and keeping creatures like that, or, this moon god, this menacing, being, keep him in the dark. Keep him in the dark. It's more menacing. But So pretty much what I want to get to is, Arthur. I thought I'm very excited to see what his character is going to be. He's kind of like, he's a cult leader. He's got people everywhere, and all he wants to reawaken this god that's been dormant. He pretty much states how this god, that if Amit was around, Hitler wouldn't have done what he did, and the genocides of Armenia wouldn't have happened, and all these major these horrific events would have never happened. And even in the vein of that, it's like, how is it gonna be that way? Like, is it gonna, like, you always know something bad is going to happen when somebody is just, they're preaching about how this thing is going to prevent all future catastrophes. It's like, well, maybe it's going to cause a huge catastrophe. That's what I'm feeling in my gut. The ending I thought was pretty good. You get to see, you finally get to see Moon Knight. You get to see the confrontation. It's not really a confrontation, but it's more of a discussion where Steven is trapped in the bathroom and he's being attacked by these dogs, and they're coming through the window, or they're coming through this door, and Mark, as a reflection in the mirror, he's like, you need to give me control, because if you don't give me control, we're going to die in here. And I love the cutaway where he finally gives Mark control. Mark turns, and then he turns into the Moon Knight. And the dog breaks in, and you think, oh shit, it's too late. But then the dog's like trying to escape, and he's dragged back in, and the Moon Knight beats the crap out of this thing. And that's where it all ends. And I thought it was brilliant the way that they did that, the way that they don't give you much of anything when it comes to Moon Knight until that very last shot. But that the next 5 episodes, you're going to get a lot more of them. So for everybody out there who was very disappointed that they didn't get to see Moon Knight in full until the very last shot, this is the way it should be. This is the way when you have origins for characters that no one, well, I'm not going to say no one, because a lot of people know the whole story behind Moon Knight. I know a lot of people know a lot more than I do, which is, for me, is very little. For me, this is the way I want to be introduced to a character. I know the gist of this character beforehand, but the way that they they let you figure it out, and they connect you with the character that would later become this other character, and what he is going through. And I think with this character, Steven, he is conflicted, and he's got to figure out what he's got to do to get by and to kind of coexist with his other self and this really powerful person that he has become. I'm very excited for the next 5 episodes. I'm very excited to hop on here and talk to you all about this. Make sure, if there's anything you guys have any questions on, if there's things that I missed. I know I did miss. I don't want to really go into every little bit of details with everything. I want people to kind of watch and come up with their own opinions, but make sure to leave them down in the comments. All right. Because it's interesting to hear people's theories about what's going to be going on. We do plan on talking about the new Halo show. I want to just put that out there. I'm very excited to talk about the Halo show. So I will be sitting down with one of my good friends to talk about Halo episode 1 and 2, since the new episode will be out tomorrow, I believe. And yeah, there's more shows on the bracket that I want to talk about going down the road. Of course, there's going to be some TV shows that I want to bring Angela back onto, but also make sure to watch our movie reviews. We're covering all the Batman movies right now. Tomorrow's episode will be Batman Begins. Very excited. But it's very exciting to sit down and get to do something like this by myself. Hopefully I can give you guys more content like this in the future. But until next time, I'm Brett Parker. This is Dissect That Film, Slice of TV, and we'll see you all next time. Bye.